And Hornaday started back in 18th. And, you know, let's face it, he doesn't have a ride for next year, so he needs to put forth his best effort.
How soon will trouble strike today? And when it strikes, how many cars will it claim?
If it strikes early, it'll be a lot of cars.
Here they come down for the start of the Staggered 200 presented by YJ Stinger.
Ooh, a little trouble there in the back. Somebody may have missed a shift or something. A lot of guys had to take evasive action.
And Truex going for the lead in the 8 car, trying to get by pole sitter Casey Kane. Busch Series, just like Nextel Cup.
Yeah, but don't forget, Kane's on the outside, BP.
5 bonus points if you can lead a lap.
He likes that outside.
Well, he does, doesn't he? Oh, he loves it outside.
Working for him.
Casey Kane leading lap 1 so far, holding off the Truex charge. It's Mike McLaughlin third in the 25, Kyle Busch fourth in the 5, and the orange car is Kevin Harvick. He runs 5th in the 21. Whoa, that was close to the wall. Is that Stremme?
You'll see a lot of that today.
I'll tell you what, Truex is trying again, and he has a terrific run this time on Casey Kane.
And he's got him. So Martin Truex going to collect 5 bonus points toward the NASCAR Busch Series Championship. That'll put a little pressure on driver 5, Kyle Busch, to get up there and lead a lap. And he goes for 3rd place on Mike McLaughlin.
May lose a couple of spots here. We'll see. He can get down to the bottom. It doesn't look like Harvick's going to let him.
And he drove it on in there.
He did that last lap, and that's why I think hurt him, because he slid up the racetrack and opened up the door.
And there's the good Dover. The 2 good fast race cars can go through the corner side by side.
Here's 2nd place, Kyle Busch under Casey Kane, and Busch goes up to the number 2 spot. So your top 2 in the championship run 1st and 2nd in the early laps here in Dover. Kyle Busch had a very frustrating race here at Dover in June. He had some contact with another car on pit road. Then he got caught up in that big mess we saw during what you were talking about earlier, Wally. Then he ended up caving in the grill on the car, and he still came back and, oh, I know, then he had some radio problems. He couldn't talk back and forth with his crew, and he still came back and finished 5th.
Well, you know, the pits here are very difficult, and I think a lot of these guys would rather see the pit stops under the green, because when you get the yellow and get everybody on pit lane, that's when you really have a lot of trouble, guys bouncing off each other when they're entering and exiting their pits.
Here comes Mark Martin up through traffic. That's Tim Fido on the 12. Mark just passed. That's for 13th place.
Started 17th, so he is going forward in the 9 car.
I talked to Tony Liberati. Whoa, a little bobble there getting into the corner. Marty?
Yeah, I talked to Mark before the race, and he said, you know, we weren't that good. He said we were really bad in the morning practice yesterday, but yesterday afternoon the car got much better. Tony Liberati also told me this morning the car continued to come to Mark. Mark made some changes this morning to the car based on what happened in Nextel Cup Series practice. Mark fairly confident they come through the top 5, but you know, when you talk to Mark, you're never quite sure if he's confident or just downplaying everything. But I think they have a good car that could certainly finish in the top 5.
So Mark has picked up 4 spots in the opening run.
It's Hornaday.
Yeah, Hornaday is going forward in that 2 car. That's for the 11th position. And as I said, he's auditioning for the next ride.
And so Bliss falling back to 12th place, driving for Joe Gibbs. Back here at
another car that's looking really good is the guy you talked to on the pace lap, BP. Greg Biffle is moving up, moving forward.
Let's check back and find Biffle here as he comes through the crowd. That's Biffle in the 60, and he's working on Paul Menard in the 11 for 17th place. Dave?
And of course, they hated to start back where they were, Alan, in 21st. A little bobble there from Biffle. Talked to crew chief Todd Parrott this morning. He said the car just got loose in qualifying. That put him behind the 8 ball. But like you said on the radio to UBP, thinks he can win this thing.
Hey, moving up as Biffle takes over 17th spot. Martin Truex Jr., the second leader of the Stacker 200, presented by Y.J. Stinger at Dover. Dover International Speedway in Delaware's capital city, home today of the Stacker 200, presented by Y.J. Stinger for the NASCAR Busch Series. Now look at this racetrack, okay? It's a mile around, made out of concrete. As we check our Stacker 2 NASCAR Busch Series track back, how much concrete do you think it took to surface this racetrack?
How much?
32,000 square yards of racing surface. It took 6,000 cubic yards of concrete.
That's what I was going to say.
I was going to guess between 5 and 7, yeah. And the concrete is 6 to 7 inches thick.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, you are such a smart aleck. Here's your leader, Martin Truex Jr. After 16 of 200 laps, he's out in front of Casey Kane by a little bit better than a second and 2/10. Mike McLaughlin has moved up to third, and Kyle Busch has slipped back to fourth place over the last few laps.
I tell you what, as Truex in the 8 car catches this traffic and tries to put these cars a lap down, Casey Kane is closed up right on his back bumper.
He's got to be a little careful in some of this traffic. It's Kevin LePage in the 72, Shelby Howard in the 35. He's trying to lap now. Dave?
Well, even on a clear track, Casey Kane was making some progress on Martin Truex. Truex and his crew began talking about the lines they were using. Kane was a bit higher. Martin was right on the bottom. So as soon as he gets out of traffic, look for Martin to try a little bit off of the bottom line.
Oh, almost making contact with Shelby Howard in that 35 car.
It's like Martin can run wherever he wants right now. He's been high, low. There he cuts down to the low side. That car's working pretty good.
I think what he'd like is for the lap car in the body in the 44. When he went by him, he was using the low lane, and they got side by side, and it got interesting. Another spot Kyle Busch is going to lose as Kevin Harvick goes by him.
And look at this, Casey Kane on the outside. What a shock going by the 8 car. Folks, the reason we're kidding about that, Casey Kane in the 38 just seems to love to run high on these bank racetracks.
And it works for him. It works for him. Dave.
Casey Kane radioed his crew a few laps ago. Car's a little bit loose, but getting better. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. A lot of guys in the garage area thought that 38 would be awfully hard to beat today in this race. Well, we'll see. Casey Kane back out in front after leading the opening lap or so. He gave it up to Martin Truex. Now he's reclaimed the #1 position.